perhaps start with something that I've gone on from what Jackie said, when are we not, is concentrate on when we are and be assured that is where God is. Even in our simplest reaction, even in breathing, but even in the kindness we show another, even in keeping the traffic rules, even in brushing our teeth, even in doing the most ordinary parts of our lives. That's when we are present to God, and God is present in us, and we're present to each other. We're present to us.
Practicing compassion.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that because compassion with, calm with compassion, it's the senses, so we're being present to ourselves, and we can do that anywhere in time on our own with others, and we do it. I think what perhaps the Gospel's telling us and what we're trying to imagine is, let's spot the moments, let's reward ourselves, pat ourselves on the back perhaps for saying, yeah, I got that one right, instead of saying, you didn't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's somewhat like spirituality is, I'm just thinking about, because I was doing this business management thing, it's about RBM, results-based management, result-based on outcomes. How it really, when you focus on that, it really, you don't go off the track and do all sorts of other things. But in what we're doing, like in spirituality, it's totally different to
It's an opposed philosophy. It's an opposed philosophy, isn't it? Because money and finance is fundamentally its own world. It's used by people for outcome, for building or for making things develop or for bartering, or it's used as a marker. It's used as a measure, money. Finance, I remember I worked in a building society for a while. We had this one day where we had to introduce new accounts, and there were people queued up and all the rest of it, and you had to offer this new account to each person. It's outcomes based. How many new accounts could you open? Could you ensure during the day that you got people to buy? And it had nothing to do, absolutely the opposite of actually really being with the person. You were being manipulative.
When was this?
Oh, a long time ago.
Well, because I've been working for someone recently, and she's only just turned 20, and I think she's going to go far. She's a great girl, and she gave up her job in the Commonwealth Bank, and I think she's only there a short time, but she couldn't stand it because it was always what you could sell.
Yes.
But it's sort of like they've sort of dressed up all this stuff into friendships and teamwork and everything on them. It's all like that. So they've tried to pull this in, but it's to get the outcome rather than actually the interest in the person. But before you were talking about more like process or something is more important than it's like you might say journey rather than.
The thing that you don't know when you're young often, I'm just thinking as a new to any job or new to teaching, because that's what I know, is that things happen, and when things happen spontaneously, they're really valuable, because when the kids have input, and it doesn't happen all the time because you have constraints, like we have a bell, so talking about time, we have a bell that marks up our lessons. But as a new teacher, you are very careful about what you've got to give, in the time. But in fact, if you allow the process to emerge, kids have a lot to give and share, and you can share, and that is far more valuable for everybody.
That's what I was just
thinking.
I was just thinking about the moment here, and I was thinking when Suzanne, or when Jeffrey opens up the thing, let Suzanne get up and say something, contributes, and then Julie has something.
Then let's me contribute.
No, but because that's the way you're holding it, but you've got two different people feeding in, and it's creating something, something's unfolding in front of you, rather than you're trying to get to there, but you might have a little piece of it, and you have another piece of it. I remember because I went to Wollongong Mission last week, I was saying, cool. I was just thinking, after being in this church, and enjoying the little bits of what you can say, I thought, I couldn't stand this at all. It was so like just, the person at the top, and it was everybody just like, it's going through this process, or not process, to the end. And the whole order of things, but there was no connection or community or anything, and I'm thinking, but also, it was, you sort of knew what was going to happen, but this is sort of more...
It's explorative, it's explorative, isn't it? I mean, it is like a journey, it is a process, and it is like a journey, and it's explorative. You don't know what's going to emerge, because everybody's thoughts are triggered. I don't know what I'm going to say next. Probably we all don't know what we're going to say next. Julia and Suzanne had a starter and have got some, and have contributions, but everybody has a contribution, and when people feel as though we're here, as though they're here and other people are listening, then that contribution triggers things like it's creative. It's a creative experience rather than a more passive experience. You're actually energized by it. And for kids in a class, sometimes, and it doesn't happen all the time, it's often, I'll speak to myself, often you remember the moments when you are sharing something, and when kids are learning, they remember better what they've contributed because it's theirs, and there's that kind of sense of partaking, and they remember other people's contribution too, but then they're processing, they're actually thinking. So it's explorative, it's fun.
That's what I used to say about like with spiritual growth or whatever when I work. As soon as people would start chipping in and saying something, and I always used to quote Paul on a few quotes. If you confess with your lips and believe in your heart, you will be saved. But it was more in the saying of something. You were actually, and I was saying people were articulating their faith, but they didn't have it really all sewn up before. As they were speaking it out, it was sort of forming. It was coming. It was coming. Or you were saying something rather than, because we were talking about creeds earlier. Rather than reciting this creed thing of someone else that's been imposed on you, you're actually saying what you really feeling and thinking.
Julie, could you say a little bit more about what you had in mind when you referred to self-compassion? Well, a little from just the my way of thinking. When I thought of compassion, I automatically thought of compassion that I would direct to the outside. I mean, it caught my attention when you spoke of self-compassion, because I hadn't thought of it as being directed internally.